Well, hey there, everybody. Hey. Welcome to tonight's CEMB seminar, which is co-sponsored by the Communication Studies Department and the Media Studies Department. So we extend a warm CEMB welcome to all. My name is Sarita Stewart, and I'm a professor in the Entertainment Industry Studies program here at Belmont. We have a special treat for you tonight. We have Dr. Jennings Bryant, who's a distinguished professor emeritus at the University of Alabama, coming to speak to us on the topic of Why'd I Just Watch That? The Essentials of Entertainment Theory. Dr. Bryant is a noted media effects researcher, as well as a much celebrated and cited communication scholar. He did a lot of his early years working as a Spencer Fellow at the Sesame Workshop. More recently, his research has been cited by Malcolm Gladwell in his 2003 book, The Tipping Point. So, one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight is that Dr. Bryant and his team actually laid the foundations for entertainment theory in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And you'll find that even though this field of scholarship is still relatively young, the origins of entertainment actually harken back to the times of antiquity. As a student, I found Dr. Bryant's work to be influential and impactful on my life. And what I hope for all of you tonight is that you will be exposed to entertainment from a new perspective, and that you'll take a new viewpoint at the end of tonight's presentation. So I'd like for all of us to extend a warm Belmont welcome to Dr. Jennings Bryant.
Thank you very much, Sarita, and thank you very much for being here. This has been a wonderful day, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the friendly welcome I've had throughout campus. So it has really been terrific. What I am very pleased to talk and honored to talk with you about tonight is the burgeoning area of entertainment theory and research. This is an area which attempts to explain why we watch, read, listen to, or play that which we choose, and what this process does for us and to us psychologically and culturally. So why is this area of research important? Or is it really important? Well, if that proverbial creature from outer space, who was a scouting party leader, came to Earth, one of the first things that they would certainly notice is how much inordinate amount of time the average citizen in modern societies spend with entertainment. They would certainly recognize the media technologies are everywhere, and that the entertainment phenomenon is a big part of our lives today. What might the scout report to the landing party? Well, they might say something like, which translates to, I don't want to go to Earth. They're in grave danger of amusing themselves to death. Which certainly we've had a few Earthlings say too. Neil Postman of the Media Ecology Department at New York University said almost precisely the same things. Why? Why do Professor Postman and our advanced scout from another galaxy base their claims, or what do they base their claims that we're choking ourselves on entertainment? Well, evidence abounds. In fact, I could spend the next 20 or 30 minutes reciting the Catechism of Statistics, which document the incredibly high level of commitment to entertainment that we have. I'll just give you a snippet of it. According to the U.S. Census Bureau in 2009, the typical American spent the equivalent of 65 days watching television, 41 days listening to the radio or pre-recorded music, and about a week each surfing the internet and reading newspapers. Of the 8,760 total hours of the year 2009, 3,518 hours, almost 5 months, were spent by that typical American consuming all types of media combined. Now, obviously, there's a lot of multitasking going on that's not figured into there, and a lot of time sharing going on. But then you have to season these statistics with this headline from the Kaiser Family Foundation report of a couple of years ago. It says daily media use among children and teens up dramatically from 5 years ago. Remarkably, that means that young children ages 8 to 18, or children and young adults 8 to 18, consume more than an hour per day more with entertainment than they did 5 years ago. In fact, they consume 2 hours plus more media than they did just 5 years ago, and they consume more than 3 hours more of media than they did 10 years ago. So not only do we have an immense amount of commitment to entertainment, other kinds of media use is tremendous as well. Moreover, 8.7% of our typical Americans' total expenditures were spent on entertainment in 2009, and that portion has increased from 5.6% just 3 decades ago. This is so-called discretionary income, but we're obviously cutting into other aspects of the way we live with our time and money spent to entertainment. As preeminent media scholar Dolph Zillman has alleged on several occasions, the current era may be called the information age by many, but we really are living in the age of entertainment, the entertainment age. University of Chicago political scientist Terry Clark has echoed these sentiments, and he's added modern society, especially urban society, has become an entertainment machine. Moreover, an article in Newsweek magazine and a book by Michael Wolff labeled the modern economy as an entertainment economy, the entire economy. And economist Darren Wolf added, entertainment, not autos, not steel, not financial services, is fast becoming the driving wheel of the new world economy. Emmanuel put the scale of our collective financial commitment to entertainment into perspective when he added, entertainment's no longer something we just do with our loose change. Worldwide, it's a $1 trillion industry. One frustrated politician even went so far to claim that the mantra of the modern era is derived from the grunge band Nirvana's song Smells Like Teen Spirit, which proclaimed, here we are now, entertain us. For those of us who teach, especially teach large lecture courses, that sounds a lot like what you, our students, expect from our large lecture courses today. I wonder how you ever develop such notions as that. I don't really worry or wonder at all, because it's a natural part of the society in which you live to come to those kind of expectations. So our alien scout from another galaxy may feel the need to flee from this entertainment-topia that's planet Earth, but I personally feel the need to understand today's citizens' penchant for entertainment. And I hope you do too. Moreover, as I learned in those wonderful humanities seminars that I took as an undergraduate so many years ago, so did Plato and Philebus, and Aristotle and the Poetics, and Hobbes and Leviathan, and Locke and Pascal and Hazlitt and Hume, and Freud and William James, and so many other great philosophers and early scientists. When I taught my first entertainment theory course at the University of Massachusetts in 1975, and I think this was the first such entertainment theory course ever taught, most of what I had students read was the work of these great thinkers. Delving into the works of these provocative philosophers kept my students fascinated, me too, because I kept learning new things from these masters every time I reread their works. However, we have accumulated so much theoretical and empirical knowledge on entertainment theory research in the past decades that in the last time I taught entertainment theory, which was a year ago, we did not have a single chapter or article that wasn't written in the 21st century. So that's how much the area has grown. It's been a huge growth area in the academy. What today's scholars have done is sit at the feet and stand on the shoulders of those great thinkers I just mentioned, as well as others certainly like them. And they've utilized their advanced methodologies and their advanced epistemologies to examine today's sovereign consumer of entertainment. What they have done in the process is to create an area of study known as entertainment theory. Now please note that I emphasize that it's entertainment consumers being studied. Entertainment theory is for the most part a social scientific enterprise. What has been studied under that rubric is not entertainment message systems, or entertainment institutions, or entertainment law, or entertainment marketing, or the artistry of entertainment. No, what this cadre of scholars has done is focus on entertainment users, on all of us, why they choose what they choose, the psychological and physiological processes involved in media selection and in the entertainment process, and other related cognitive and emotional processes. As such, entertainment theory is a burgeoning branch of what we have come to call media psychology. Let me pose a series of questions as I attempt to serve as your guide into this fascinating area of inquiry. First, is the relentless pursuit of entertainment strictly an information age phenomenon? It's something we just do now for the first time. No, it's really a matter of degree. Entertainment has long been a ubiquitous phenomenon. No culture of which we have an adequate accounting has been entirely without it. As soon as the struggle for survival left humans with at least a modicum of security, sufficient time for relaxation and leisure, and the development of some communicative abilities, activities began to be pursued primarily for the purpose of amusement, merriment, gaiety, fun, joy, enlightenment. In other words, they serve the cause of entertainment. Is the process of entertainment different in the current entertainment age than it was in earlier ages? Well, think about it. The entertainment experience is most typically realized by observing the fortunes and misfortunes of others, along with those actors' behavioral responses and emotional responses to the ongoing events. Now, this conception encompasses not only the ritualized formats of comedy and drama and tragedy and the like, but it also allows for the exhibition of others' athletic or musical talents, along with these performers' emotionality and even the emotional expressions of co-witnesses. In these terms, entertainment was provided to audiences eons ago. In the Greek theater, in the Roman sports arena, in the European soccer fields, in the open air of Woodstock, for example. However, in the modern era, such live presentations typically have been embellished or usurped by the multimedia performances distributed by telecommunication systems and other means, and exhibited by radio, film, television, video games, websites, smartphones, iPads, and their kin. Well, when this first began to happen in primitive form, in the so-called industrial age, the entertainment events could then reach potentially unlimited audiences. Mass distribution reached a mass audience, and the entertainment audiences became truly massive, so that entertainment on this new scale began to be called mass entertainment. In this latest digital era, which we often call the information age, a technological breakthrough, many technological breakthroughs, broadened the spectrum of entertainment offerings and gave unlimited, around-the-clock entertainment access to anyone seeking pleasure from listening or watching or reading or playing or the like. It also led to some new production-savvy digital natives who create and manipulate media content for their own pleasure. So many audience members have become not just users of media messages, they've become producers and sharers and creators and co-creators of those messages also. Moreover, media-presented entertainment came to permeate and dominate all other content categories, such as news and information educational programs. Consider, for example, the plethora of news magazine programs on the air and ubiquitous news-oriented blogs on the internet. Many of these are entertainment-flavored information, often called infotainment. Or consider Sesame Street and its abundant legacy, where I began my career. This is entertainment-spiced education, or in the parlance of the day, edutainment. So to finally answer my governing question, although traditional educational formats are still utilized, the process of entertainment in this postmodern era has evolved to accommodate new forms as well as new sources of entertainment. This includes those incredibly rapidly growing forms of user-generated media called social media, which obviously also serve hybrid functions. They certainly serve communicative functions, they serve informative functions, but they also certainly serve entertainment functions as well. Next question, do media consumers make psychologically beneficial entertainment choices? A large and growing body of empirical research indicates that although most entertainment choices are made spontaneously and at a level at which most consumers are unaware of the reasons for their choices, many of the choices are psychologically beneficial and serve the needs and ends of consumers. Moreover, many of these needs are multi-layered, exceedingly complex, and difficult to ascertain. My most frequent research collaborator and mentor, Dolph Zimmerman, and I published the first empirical investigation of this so-called selective exposure phenomenon in 1984, followed by the publication in 1985 of our edited scholarly book entitled Selective Exposure Communication. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on this initial experimental investigation because it really shifted in a lot of ways, the focus that we do on what people like to watch and why they like to watch it. This first empirical investigation was published in the Journal of Broadcasting and Electronic Media and examined whether people could and would choose television programming that optimally served their special needs for excitement versus relaxation. We proposed that understimulated, bored individuals would select television fare that's more exciting, which could serve to increase their excitation to levels typically more commonly associated with feeling good. And we predicted that stressed individuals would avoid exciting fare, rather they would select relaxing entertainment capable of enabling them to calm down to more ideal psychophysiological levels. So the first specific question we asked was, do individuals use media effectively for excitation and or relaxation? Now in this lab experiment, we first placed part of the subjects into states of boredom and other parts in a state of stress. And then there was a waiting period, and we asked them, told them they could watch whatever they wanted to watch. We had a television there, we had a number of video cassettes. Some of you have never seen a video cassette, but we had cassettes. And they were able to choose whatever they wanted and watch it. We had extensively pre-tested all the television programs that were made available to them. Half of these programs had been found to be extremely relaxing, and half of them had been found to be very exciting. So what we did was to measure the time of consumption of each type of program that the person watched surreptitiously. The data revealed that relaxing programs were more frequently chosen and watched for longer periods of time by stressed than by bored individuals. In contrast, exciting programs were more frequently chosen and watched for a longer period of time by bored individuals. We also measured the level of physiological excitation of all these individuals throughout the session. We found that almost all of the participants had chosen television fare that helped them get out of those undesirable psychological states, those undesirable physiological states that they were in, and enabled them to retain excitatory homeostasis and psychological well-being. Now, for marketing reasons, the theory associated with this phenomenon of self-selecting media fare to improve one's level of excitation and mood has come to be called mood management theory. It's a lot catchier title than selective exposure communication or some of the things we tried in the first place. It's been tested in many different settings and many different situations for 2.5 decades plus. It's been refined quite a bit. What's been the big picture result? Well, to paraphrase the latest Arby's ads, media messages can be that proverbial good mood food. They can get you into those good moods, into those positive states. So before we go into this issue of how to create and manage optimal entertainment experiences, we probably should spend just a few minutes discussing the entertainment experience per se. When we ask somebody about an entertainment event, we typically act as if the entertainment process is pretty one-dimensional. For example, we ask, did you enjoy the Hunger Games? Or we ask, how much did you like that new book by James Lee Burke? Such questions make entertainment seem like a pretty simple affair. Recent empirical research indicates that the affective and cognitive responses associated with consuming entertainment messages and turning that process into enjoyment are anything but simple, however. For this just completed project, I collaborated with a couple of former students, and we took a very different approach. The approach we took was to have typical moviegoers watch previously successful films from the action, comedy, or horror genres in their entirety in a theater. One reason we used this rather holistic in situ approach was that research and reception theory has convinced us that entertainment is less the result of the aim of the communicator than the interpretation of the message within the process of reception. So we tried to adhere to this principle. In all, 135 participants watched action films, 130 watched comedy films, and 145 watched horror films. Now, we didn't want to use recent films for obvious reasons, so we took the top grossing films in terms of ticket sales from each genre from the years 1995 through 1999, which of course yielded 5 films in each genre. Each participant watched one film in its entirety, and the film they watched was determined by a random assignment procedure. Here's just a couple of the films in each genre. For example, for action films, it would include The Rock and The Matrix. For comedy, it would include Clueless and Austin Powers. For horror, one of the many Halloween films, An Urban Legend. After viewing their assigned movie in its entirety, without interruption, each research participant then completed 2 instruments. The first instrument was a mood adjective checklist, and from which each person circled the 10 adjectives that best described how the film left them feeling as a whole. So they could choose from afraid, alert, whatever they chose. They just circled the 10 items that best represented how the film left them feeling. The second instrument permitted responses to a number of scales that allowed each person to report how the film left them feeling, but using equal interval scales so that we could do some fancy statistical multidimensional scaling. And then we had a bunch of other items on how much they enjoyed the film overall and those kinds of things as well. We obviously don't have time for detailed results, so allow me, if you will, to cherry pick just a little bit. Overall, the films were found to be very enjoyable. They averaged 7.76 out of 10, which means they were pretty positive entertainment experiences. And we found that there was no statistically significant differences in enjoyment between the different film genres. But the next 3 figures show just how different the entertainment experience is of these 3 genres. Watching a film in each of these 3 genres was. First, here are the most frequently selected mood adjectives for the films in the action genre. The first, for example, was adventurous. 40 people, 8 people selected adventurous. So it made it feel like they were part of the adventure, Indiana Jones Jr., etc. They were brave, 45 of them. Exhausted, they were worn out from that. Courageous, interested, anxious, daring, alert, tense, tired, wide awake. You get the profile. It's an action film. They were carried along with the action. They drew in the action. They empathized with it. It was part of what they were feeling at the end of the program. So contrast this, if you will, with the mood adjectives that were selected most often after watching a comedy film. Amused, hateful, why hateful? Comedy films, as you know, are full of what we call tendentious humor, put-down humor, vicious humor, delighted, happy, joyful, pleased, jolly, optimistic, graceful, alive. That didn't sound at all like the responses to those action films. It was a very different kind of emotional experience, despite the fact that they were equally well liked across genre. Enjoyment was the same, but the dimensions of enjoyment were dramatically different. Or look at the horror genre. Tense, anxious, afraid, nervous, frightened, edgy, scared, alert, and amused. Some of these horror films, as you know, are pretty campy. But you can see here from this, although level of enjoyment, that so-called unidimensional construct, was similar for films across each genre, the cognitive and emotional experiences were tremendously different across genres. So entertainment is not some simple unidimensional measure of enjoyment per se. It is a very multidimensional kind of experience. Of the myriad of types of entertainment media, the type receiving the most or the least attention from entertainment theory, from those people looking at users, consumers, has been music. Adolescents in particular appear to use music deliberately to escalate good moods and to diminish bad moods. And because music plays such a major role in adolescent socialization and entertainment, we recently conducted a series of investigations to see if music really could calm the savage beast as well as fan the angry flames of hostility produced by teenage hormones. We found that within limits, music can be both used to soothe the beast and to inflame the beast. That is the modern adolescent. And whatever music provided the most effective catalyst for whatever mood repair was most needed at that time was that to which respondents selected most often and found the most enjoyable and most entertaining. Let me just give you an example of one study in this area. Sylvia Knobloch Westerwink of Ohio State University, who was on sabbatical leave with us at the University of Alabama doing a postdoctoral fellowship, conducted an experiment in which adolescent research participants were first either placed in a good mood or in a bad mood, and then allowed to listen to music of their choice. She found that individuals who were in bad moods predictably resorted to energetic and joyful music to repair their moods, and they selected their mood management choices quickly and decisively. Interestingly, people who were in good moods were much more variable in their music selection, and they were much slower to make their choices. Now, obviously, such mood repair via music has its limits. Listen to the words of fictional character Chief Inspector Alan Banks in Peter Robinson's 2009 novel, All the Colors of Darkness. Banks sat with his hands on the wheel. He didn't think he had ever felt so alone in all of his life. He was beyond even music. There wasn't a song in the world that could alleviate or accompany the way he felt right now. So limits, yes, but still very useful phenomenon. And music is, from an entertainment theory perspective, really an understudied phenomenon. Throughout our dozens of studies on entertainment theory over the past 40 years, we've identified a few key elements that appear to be linchpins of successful entertainment. I thought it might be useful to identify a few of these for you. Certainly some of them are not going to be surprises, but maybe the subtle nuances of how they come together may be a bit of surprise. The first, character and affective disposition. I seriously doubt that it will surprise a single one of you when I state that one of the essential characteristics of entertainment is character and affective disposition. After all, most entertainment genres rely on heroes and villains. And we've long realized that stories fall flat without interesting protagonists. However, the typical claim made along these lines is that character is everything, as Will Breton of the Wish Films recently was quoted as saying in Screen Magazine. However, our research has put the emphasis on a different syllable, so to speak. We would offer the following refinement from an entertainment theory perspective. Audience members' affective responses to a character and to her or his behaviors and expressed attitudes is that which is essential to entertainment. That's the response side of character development, the way we respond to the characters. And if your character doesn't engender appropriate responses, character's nothing. Now remember, this claim is from the perspective of entertainment theory, a social scientific phenomenon. If you're a literary scholar, if you're a screenwriter, if you're a comp lit student, you'll have a very different perspective on this. So this is a very narrow entertainment theory perspective. Such ruminations have found their way into more formal theory, such as disposition theory, which is one of the essential building blocks of entertainment theory. Here's a fancy form of a statement about disposition theory. I'll read it to you quickly. Enjoyment arising from witnessing the debasement, failure, or defeat of a character increases with the negative intensity of the negative sentiment and decreases with positive sentiment toward the character and the others inverse of that. All that means is the more you like a character, the more you're going to root for that character to succeed, and the more you dislike that character, you're going to root for that character to fail and to get his or her comeuppance. But this is certainly a critical aspect of entertainment. Disposition theory can perhaps be seen most blatantly and certainly at its most primitive level in various forms of reality programming, such as sporting events with their famous and infamous rooting behavior. This is certainly one I saw a lot during my 23 years at Alabama on the left-hand side. But disposition theory is also shown in its rawest form in programs such as American Idol, Dancing with the Stars, in which audience members not only root wildly for their favorites, but actually help select them. As you know, both sporting events and reality shows like American Idol have huge and incredible loyal fan bases, members of which often cheer tremendously loud for their favorites, put down the judges if they say something wrong about their favorites, and even literally fight for their favorites. Scholars of entertainment have also devoted considerable attention to the central role of conflict in drama. Certainly claims for the importance of conflict in drama are absolutely not new. In fact, they date back to Aristotle, who argued that conflict is the heart of drama. What entertainment theory has carefully done, and successfully done both theoretically and empirically, however, is to show a critical linkage between conflict and the nature of its resolution. In this frame, you see two possible solutions to the main character's quest in the perennially popular Wizard of Oz. On the left, the Tin Man has found a way to get his heart, and the Scarecrow's brain, although the character line is a bit puzzled over which organ holds the key to his desired courage. But now this is full of conflict. As the anthropologists say, it's red in fang and claw. But I don't think many in the audiences for the original movie would have found this outcome particularly entertaining and enjoyable, and it certainly wouldn't have become a children's classic. No, we want Dorothy to successfully complete her journey down the yellow brick road and even arrive safely back in Kansas. So there's an essential linkage between conflict, which certainly is important, but its resolution, which is at least equally important. Conflict alone doesn't do it, except for the occasional psychopath. Another primary ingredient of entertainment, especially drama, is suspense and its human concomitant empathetic distress. The incredibly talented filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock, among others, has on several occasions made the claim, the more suspense, the better. Hitchcock even has addressed the empathetic distress side of the equation by saying, always make the audience suffer as much as possible. Again, empirical and theoretical work in entertainment has offered refinements to such claims. In this case, successful resolution for high levels of suspense appears to be the magic formula. Just why do we need high levels of suspense in the first place? According to Zillman's excitation transfer theory, high levels of suspense yield high levels of empathetic distress, which in turn yield high levels of arousal in terms of elevated sympathetic activation. Then, relying on mechanisms which are far beyond the scope of this talk, sympathetic activation is transferred into the audience member's appraisal of the resolution of the story, of the suspense. If the resolution of the suspense is satisfying and appealing to the audience member, the arousal from the suspense catalyzes this pleasurable satisfaction in the resolution and produces a high level of euphoria. We love it. We stand up and cheer. But if the resolution is unsatisfying, say in the case of an unhappy ending, then the arousal transfers into dysphoria. Too much of a combination of high suspense and unsatisfying resolutions will yield empty theaters, unwatched television programs, and the like. When I tell sophisticated college students that moral judgment is a major factor in the enjoyment of entertainment fare, I'm frequently met with looks of skepticism and occasionally disdain. But the evidence for this is unequivocal and abundant. Numerous empirical investigations have led entertainment theorists to posit that the minds of audience members include a number of complex moral judgmental filters. And if any of these layers of filters are breached, enjoyment from the entertainment experience is impaired. Now, obviously, Mae West disagrees with that, and many would argue that Hollywood's prevailing moral judgmental filter system differs dramatically from their own. But what the research has revealed is that the system of moral judgment that circumscribes our enjoyment of entertainment fare is highly multidimensional and highly complex. For example, seemingly we have a filter for propriety, that which ought to happen in society, and another filter for justice and injustice, another for considerations of norm violation, another for filter for equity, another for retribution, and the like. So there are any number of moral judgmental filters we bring to bear on every entertainment experience that's there. And not only that, the dominant moral judgmental norms of the culture can shift overnight, seemingly, meaning the things that were appreciated, that struck our filters or slipped through our filters at one point, didn't make it through it another time. For example, in 1980, we created a series of jokes and squelches and put-downs and cartoons that featured provocation and retaliation. And there were various conditions of retaliation for each one of the jokes or cartoons, including extreme under-retaliation, fair retaliation or equitable retaliation, over-retaliation, and extreme over-retaliation. We then examined people's enjoyment of each of those materials experimentally way back then, and we found that the fair or equitable condition was rated as the funniest and most enjoyable. This study was replicated 3 times, one at the University of Maryland, and one at San Francisco State University, and another time at Michigan State University, all within 3 years of its publication, and the same thing occurred. We found that at that time, people liked, if it's a certain level of provocation, they wanted to see it matched by the retaliation. If someone hurt somebody a certain way, they wanted them to get back at the same way. We used the very same stimuli and the same protocols in a study conducted in 2010 among students at the same university. The same university we'd run the studies 30 years before. The 21st century students greatly preferred the version of the jokes and cartoons featuring over-retaliation. They were judged to be much funnier than were the same stimuli in the fair retaliation condition, which had been the favorites of their parents' generation. So morals change, norms change, values change. We have a tremendous amount we still need to learn about the role of perceived justice, moral judgment, and the like in entertainment, but we do know that morality matters, and it matters in a big way. There are a huge number of entertainment theory essentials that have had a tremendous amount of research that we're not going to get to cover tonight. And I just wanted to let you know that there's a rich tradition here that helps explain why we like what we like that we can't touch. Things like superiority theory, which go all the way back to Plato and Aristotle. Things like misattribution theory, which come out of Freud. Things like Berging and Corfin, which have to do with explaining why when we root for a team and that team wins, we tend to identify with that team and wear paraphernalia that looks like that team's colors the next days and things like this. And how that celebration of ourselves makes a part of self-identity, which adds to the entertainment experiences. Morbid curiosity, or why we like images of death and various kinds of things like that. Tearjerkers, an amazingly difficult thing to understand. Why do we go to something that would make us cry, that would make us feel very, very morose, upset? Competition. In video gaming, for example, that's a huge entertainment phenomenon. We don't just play for the other entertainment dimensions, although they're important. It's also to win. Social influences and companion effects. For example, we know in horror films, young male teens, very young teens, often go together to see a horror film. Why? So that the next day they can go in a mixed group and show just how brave they are. So these kind of phenomena, and on and on and on, are a part of that goes into explaining entertainment theory. And if we had time and energy, we could do that kind of thing tonight, but we don't. As you can see, answering the question of why did I watch that is not simple. But it comprises many wonderful intellectual puzzles and guarantees many years of productive labor for the next generation of research fellows and students and doctoral students. The best is yet to be. Thank you very much for letting me share my love of entertainment theory with you today. And yippee. If you have questions, I probably don't have answers, but I'll be glad to try. I know I answered all your questions, Betty, but yes.
I was wondering, do you or the discipline make a difference between art and entertainment? And how does that change your...
I should have talked about the eudaimonic aspect on that second line of the page. That really has to do with the critical evaluation of things. What I've been talking about all night is essentially what we talk about as hedonistic entertainment. In other words, that's the kind of thing where we get immediate gratification and pleasure. The other type of thing is art. Mary Beth Oliver of Penn State University has been doing some marvelous work on the differences in the processes of those things. And it's not just art. It's also the pleasure we get from being critical of something, of talking about it to a friend, of showing how wise we are in our appraisal of it and things. So there's a lot of things that are the eudaimonic entertainment that I didn't touch on one bit. So very much of a difference. Thank you for that question. Yes, sir.
I've noticed that in some movies that I watch that are older, I'll be more likely to be bored in certain movies that at the time seem very exciting, very fun.
Right.
Are there some major changes that Hollywood has made in order to keep our attention more?
Yes.
That you would say?
The pace. Sitting right back here, one of the third row, Jimmy Wade, is a world's foremost expert in pacing. Jimmy McCullough is from Webster University and one of my former students, and he has studied pacing extensively. One of the things that is important to realize is that the rhythm of life changes, and the new media have created so much in terms of explosive rate of change that we have to have much faster pace today. If you take the old movies, the classics, and look at how many times they were edited per minute, how many times the frame changed, and versus the new, there is no comparison. So one of the things that filmmakers have to do, just like musicians have to do, is to keep in touch with the audiences from an entertainment theory perspective, to know how the rhythm of their life are changing. The rhythm of their aesthetic values is changing. The rhythm of the way they process information. A lot of people are today using imaging electronic scopes, fMRI, to see how pace changes the way the brain reacts to things, and they find that young people tend to react very differently to fast pace than to older people. So there's some huge differences there. And that's why you may find a film entertaining today, and 10 years from now it may seem too slow to you, because you may have changed, your brain may have changed, been rewired in that process. A big difference. Yes, sir?
In the context of Plato the Republic, besides imagine being when people talk about this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
I remember that in the Republic, Plato talks about when we reach democracy, the people wanting to gratify their desires.
Right.
And in an age where, like you said, that's the thing, it's everyone can do it so easy and so fast. Do you think he wouldn't like that, would he?
No, he wouldn't like that. He would think we failed in terms of that regard. He had, in some ways, an elitist entertainment theory. He argued that we tend to look at we find pleasure in seeing ourselves as superior to others, and if they have a deformity, malformed limb, for example, this is primitive stuff, we laugh at them and the like. But things like what you're talking about would not fit into his society at all. Good point. Yes?
How do you see westernization and the way that entertainment affects non-European countries or non-Western countries?
It's a different kind of question, because it gets into essentially development communication issues and, sort of the cultural imperialism of the United States. We have certainly, through our music and through our film industry and our television industry, been a huge exporter, and our largest financial exports nowadays are entertainment. So we certainly do that, and we tend to be pretty insensitive to the kind of things that we are exporting in terms of value. And so we have certainly created some ugly American images with the way we've exported it insensitively. We've also made some changes in other countries as we've done this. Many people argue that the Arab Spring phenomenon, for example, is to a large part due to the social media that have become available to allow not just entertainment, but information flow in that kind of way. So there's no question it's been a huge part of what we've done. Sometimes we've done it cavalierly, and sometimes we've done it thoughtfully. Some place like Sesame Street, which is in 40-some different languages, has been done carefully with co-productions in other countries where they're sensitive to the cultural values, but even there we've made mistakes. So it's very hard not to make mistakes when you're an international importer of those kind of things. Yes?
Has there been any evidence to show that media or entertainment is able to change morals? I know that you said that people enjoy it less if their morals don't match.
Yeah.
But is there anything?
Yes, there is, and that's a very good question. Steve Rockwell and I did a study showing how you can, over time, by changing about what people are exposed to in terms of what is seen as the typical morality play thing, shift slightly people's moral values. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that determination. And we dealt with adolescents, young adolescents, 12, 13 years. What we found was that if the parents were open with the child, and an open communication system, a very honest communication system, the changes didn't take place that way. It was the child that was ready to rebel, didn't have somebody to go to, those kind of things, where the changes were pretty dramatic. So yeah, that can happen, but under certain circumstances. Latchkey kids are more vulnerable than a lot of others in that regard. Well, thank you folks very, very much. It's been a pleasure being here.